Howdy, folks. Thanks for tuning in. My name's JB Zelke, and this is the Dusty Vaquero podcast. Punchy, poetic, pure. All right, we're back in the saddle shop. We got Zack McGinn in the house. Zack's a rancher from West Texas. He's playing here at the Texas Caprock Cowboy Fandango in Turkey, Texas. So we're hanging out here. He brought some of his hoodlum friends with him.
Couple of morons.
Yeah, but what have you been up to lately?
Just living the dream, man. Right now we're chasing kids. It's Little League Baseball and getting ready for Playday rodeos and all the fun stuff, you know.
Yeah. How many kids you got playing baseball?
Oh, about 400. I got two boys that are twins right now, so they're playing ball.
Yeah.
And then my littlest, not littlest, I guess, middle daughter there, she's 4. She's fixing to start T-ball up. So that's about like herding cats, you know.
Right, yeah. Well, let's you've got a bunch of interesting stories and you've done some cool stuff. We were actually just talking about this outside, that it was probably almost 15 years ago that we met for the first time. I was in college in Laramie.
Yeah, that's right, at the Cowboy there.
At the Cowboy Saloon, and you had a band called Dolly Shine that a lot of people miss dearly still. And you still get out there and do reunion shows here and there and whatnot. But, well, let's go back to the beginning and just start with kind of your upbringing and where were you born, where were you raised? Were you playing baseball as a kid, or were you playing music, rodeo, and what were you doing?
Yeah, so I was born in San Angelo, Texas, and then I grew up in the hill country, a little town called Mason, until I graduated. And I played all the sports, baseball, football, basketball, primarily baseball, and then I discovered rodeoing and kind of took off with that for a while. And then songwriting took a hold, and it made a lot more sense for me to write songs than it did to ride bulls when I realized that all my buddies were making the finals and I was still having to have a day job, you know.
Yeah.
So, but no, I picked up the guitar, and then I went to college there at Tarleton. I say went to college and not school because it was more so for the experience, I think. The first time I went to Bostocks, I think my education just went out the window. And from there, I don't know, you know, that struck up about a 10-year deal of just screwing up my life, traveling down the road and writing songs.
So when did you start riding bulls?
Oh, I was probably 12 or 13 when I started trying to get on.
And then did you college rodeo?
Off and on a little bit there, yeah. And then we just did a bunch of open rodeos, and then we tried to go down and do the Challenger event stuff a little bit here and there. And yeah.
And you were in the middle of all the Bad Company rodeo stuff. Like you knew all those guys. And
yeah, I was always kind of kicking around, you know, became friends with Mac and some of those guys somewhere down the road, and he's always been real good to us. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was, you know, you can explain it much better because I got a crash course on Bad Company rodeo one night when I was hanging out with these boys, that it's a lot more than just a rodeo company, and it means a lot more than that to a ton of people.
Man, it's really a brotherhood. It's a family, and I think they just set the tone for pro rodeo. You know, the reason why there's a rock and roll show and all that stuff in pro rodeo right now is because of Mac and those guys, because he really set the scene. He was a pioneer in his own way because he was doing things that other guys weren't doing. Before that, it was just kind of like old school, slow poke, kind of cowboy country music. And then Mac brought the rock and roll. He brought the party scene. He brought the buckers. You know, he brought the good times. It was revolutionary, in my opinion, for rodeo.
Do you remember the first time that you ever went to a Bad Company rodeo?
Yeah, I was probably 13 or 14, and we used to go to the Max Junior Bull Ridings, and we were getting on those bulls that eventually would be like, you know, later on like Buck and Bull of the Year, you know, like Satan's Own and Hammer Time and stuff like that when they were like 2 and 3 year olds.
That's wild. What was your impression when you got there? That being such a different sort of like production that they were doing there.
It just blew my mind. I thought honestly, like, it was the coolest shit I had ever seen. And immediately I was drawn to it. I wanted to be part of that, whatever it was, for good, bad, or indifferent. I just liked it and I was drawn to it,
And I talked to Ross about this some, but the lifestyle that you got to live when you're rodeoing is very similar to the lifestyle that you have to live as a musician. It's a lot of time on the road.
Yeah, it's the same thing, day in and day out. You the only thing difference is you're guaranteed to make a paycheck when you're playing music versus riding bulls.
I didn't know there was ambulances in this town.
Yeah, I know.
There's no cops and there's no police enforcement in this town at all. So it's just the ambulance.
Fire truck.
I'll be dang, big things happening in Turkey, Texas.
It's probably Brendan Green.
He was left unsupervised for a while.
He was building campfires out by the school bus, probably.
Yeah. So do you remember the first song that you ever wrote that, I shouldn't say the first song. What is the oldest song that you still play today? Man,
I've got a whole little batch of them there that I probably wrote when I was 18, 20 years old. A big slug of those made it onto that Room to Breathe record, which was like, it wasn't the first Dolly Shine record, but we'd made an EP prior to that. But I think I had just been collecting songs for a while. Walking to New Orleans, Spinning My Wheels, like some of those songs made it onto a record. And I didn't think that almost 20 years later, I'd still be playing some of them, but yeah.
And the music side of things, is that a family deal? Did you learn from your family to play, or did you learn from friends, or why did you pick up a guitar in the first place?
Man, I think on both sides of my family are pretty musically inclined. My grandmother played the piano in church and things like that, and my uncles played guitar in bands for years, and I had another great uncle that did, and just kind of a lot of folks in the family played instruments, but it wasn't something directly in my household that we had, and I was kind of the first one, I guess, in my direct stuff right there. But I think I was probably 10 or 11, somewhere around there, whenever I just kind of had an interest in it, and I just kind of started picking one up. My stepdad showed me a few chords, and then I kind of went with it from there, and I just stowed away in my bedroom for a couple of years. And then I think I went and saw Jason Boland open up for Ragweed when I was in the 8th grade, and that just blew my mind wide open. I was like, holy shit. I didn't know guys wrote their own songs. I just thought they appeared from somewhere, I don't know where. But I saw that, and I can remember thinking, man, if those guys can do this, maybe I could too. And I don't think I've ever done it near as good as any of those guys, but I've damn sure chased it.
So was that the first time that you really considered writing your own songs?
Yeah, somewhere around 8th grade or so, 13, 14, however old you are then. I started dinking around with them, just writing shitty love songs and whatever else, about whenever you're 13, 14 years old. Yeah, and then I think it's maybe progressed a little bit since then, but not a whole lot.
Right. So I think a huge hurdle for a lot of dudes is putting together, you can do that solo acoustic type of, shows you can do it for as long as you want, but as far as growth, that's a huge step to put together a band and go start playing full band shows and then also touring with the band. What did that look like for you when you put together Dolly Shine? How'd you find those guys? How'd you keep them together?
So for me, I guess that kind of started like through some guys I had known, like high school rodeo and that kind of stuff, like down around that Gonzales, like South Texas area. And I had some buddies down there that I had met through that situation that played guitar and all that stuff. And so we kind of started getting together. And then from there, he's like, hey, man, I know a drummer. And I was like, well, now we need a bass player. They're like, oh, shit, okay, well, we got this guy over here that can play bass. And so, before we know it, we'd kind of like put a little project together, and we started practicing in an old oil field shop down there.
Nice.
And yeah, man, we just hammered it out for 6 or 8 months, and then we kind of got some some shitty like golf course bar gigs and whatever we could get into. We used to play this place in New Braunfels called Billy's Ice House. I'm sure these two guys have played there back in the day. And they would pay you $50 for an acoustic show, and we would take it, but you had to bring your own sound. So we would take the gig, and then we would not say anything about it, but we would bum rush and bring in our full band and just play full band on a Wednesday or Thursday night, and still for the same $50. But just because we wanted to get the experience, and we wanted to play live shows, and that was kind of our way into it, was that. And then from there, we kind of started playing a little bit more, traveling around more of that Greater Hill Country area, and then it spread, over time. It just takes time for those kind of things, but we just kind of slowly built it and made buddies, and we'd go open for their band here and go open for somebody else over there, and we did that for a few years, and that's kind of how it got started.
And you've told me some stories in the past that you got to open some shows and play with some guys that are pretty recognizable names now. Who are some of the bands that you were around at that time? Like, I know you talked about Kojo opening a show for him. And
yeah, back then I had met Cody probably 2008 or 9, somewhere around there. And we used to play this bar on Northgate in College Station there. I think it was called Fitzwilly's maybe at the time. We'd play on the back patio, and it'd be like 15 people, and like part of that 15 people might have been the guys in the band, plus like Cody's girlfriend and like a couple of my buddies. I think his dad might have been playing bass or something in the band at that time. And we'd have to share a guitar, and he don't play on them strings too hard. They're brand new. We got to save them. Yeah, but we did shows with Cody back in the day. And then after he blew up, we were kind of blessed and fortunate that he brought us on and would play a few more. And then I guess in the last couple of years, started doing a little bit of stuff off and on, like Robert Earl Keen's had us out to a few things. It's a crazy ride, man. You get blessed and take the opportunities where you get them.
Right. So Dolly Shine was well-known in Texas, but well-known throughout the West. I mean, it was a well-known band, and you kind of had to make a tough decision at a certain point where your family's ranching in West Texas, and it got to a point where, I'll let you tell the story, but it came down to, what do you want to do? How do you want to spend your time?
Yeah, it pretty much, I think it probably came at the height of the band. Like I will say at the time, we were just kind of starting to lease a bus, here and there, and things were like starting to look pretty good for us. Finally really selling out some venues and hearing people singing the songs back to you, those kind of things. Finally getting where we were not eating table scraps anymore. It was finally starting to get a little bit good. And then my dad has some health stuff going on, and then my wife and I were trying to start a family at the time. And to me, I love music with all my heart, but some things are just more important than others. And in my specific scenario, I chose my family over the music industry, and I would do that again in a heartbeat. You don't always get to do what you want to do all the time, but I love what I'm doing. Right now, I feel like I'm exactly where I need to be in my life because I get to play a little bit of music. I'm very fortunate to still get out and play and write and scratch that itch when I want to, but I also get to be home, and I get to watch my kids grow up, and I get to be there, and I don't have to miss baseball practices and birthday parties and, the first this or that. Or when my son says, "Hey, Dad, let's go have a catch in the backyard," we can go play catch. I'm not gone somewhere. So that, to me, I think that's worth more to me than any sold out crowd anywhere.
Right. And you told me a story that it wasn't too long after that people were coming up and telling you how sad they were that Dolly Shine wasn't touring anymore. And you, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said that you were out, sweating your ass off on building some fence line. And was it Room to Breathe? That album went to like number 6 on the iTunes charts or something. It was something like that you were telling me.
No, it was, I think it was that last record that we put out. Yeah, it was that Walkabout record. It ended up being like number 11 out of 50 in the Americana charts that year, and I had no freaking idea until somebody sent me a screenshot of the chart.
Yeah, and you're out ranching. Well, what does ranching look like where you're at? Because you're in a pretty tough part of the world to be raising cattle out there. What's that look like out there?
Very hot, very dry. If you like rain, you're not going to want to be in West Texas because it doesn't happen very often. Man, it's pretty good because that country can change on a dime. just flip of a switch. It can be green, rolling stuff, the most prettiest thing you've ever seen in your life. And then a month later, boom, you know, you're 110 degrees for 100 days straight. And I don't know, it's tough. I think just much like anywhere, it brings its own challenges to the table. And it's always windy, it's always hot, it's always dry. Mm-hmm. But it's good, man. It's not for the faint of hearts where we're at, but much like anywhere else, you know, really no different.
And out in that part of the world, are you pretty reliant on rain, or is there irrigation, or are you just, you know, counting the raindrops, hoping that grass grows?
We're always counting raindrops and hoping that the grass grows, because it's good ranch country. It's not good farm country. The water is good in some places and just complete shit in others. Like we've got places where you get 80 to 100 gallons a minute on your wells, and then we've got places where you get a gallon or two a minute. So it's just kind of it's a huge swing right there, but it's always a gamble.
Right. And is it mostly like cow calf out there, or people running yearlings? What's mostly out there?
Man, most of it I would say is cow calf. There are a few guys that have some pretty big yearling operations, and they'll have some grow yards and things like that. And there'll be some guys that raise some sheep, you know, or some goats or some stuff like that. But predators are a pretty big deal where we're at too. So
what type of predators do you have out there?
Coyotes, bobcats, things like that. The occasional mountain lion will roam through the country. Nothing crazy. We don't have bears, you know, or any of that shit.
Yeah. What's what type of cattle do you have out there that can survive in that type of climate?
So really, primarily guys are running Angus, whether it be black or red, pretty much in our country right over there.
And they handle the heat all right.
Yeah, they're pretty heat tolerant.
I feel like if you took some of our cattle from Wyoming and brought them down there, they'd all be laying there dead, cooking in the sun.
Well, shit, if you took our cattle and you took them up there, they'd be dead in the snow.
Frozen.
Too,
yeah. Yeah, that's very true. What is it? Is there a lot of horseback outfits out there? Is that like performance horse country, or just kind of ranch horse, or what?
A little bit of both, but I'd say in our part of the world, it's primarily like ranch horse is kind of the king around there. There's a lot of guys who rely on ranch horses to get their jobs done still daily. I know, like, there's a neighbor of mine down the road. He's close to 70 years old, and he's horseback daily doing something.
Do you guys raise your own horses, or do you just buy them outside horses?
Yeah, we've bought a few and we've raised a few. I find that it's better to either raise them or buy them young and then get them acclimated to that country, because it is so rough and rocky out there that they really need to be adapted to that country to survive.
I was talking to Gail Stager, and he lives in a very rough part of Arizona out there south of Prescott. And I was at his place, and he was showing me their foaling pasture, and it ain't nothing but a pile of rocks. And he said that they specifically throw the mares and their foals out there because if they can't sort out their feet in that pasture, they'll never cut it. And I mean, you'd have a hard time walking across it afoot.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's the way we want them. That's why Arizona horses can survive this type of country, because you bring in horses really from anywhere else out there into Arizona, and they just can't hack it. The heat and it's hard on their feet. And I mean, it's pretty important that they grow up right there and get used to that.
I'd say that's very similar to West Texas. Like, you kind of need something that was raised in the country, you know, at least within 100 miles or so of you, so that at least it's pretty similar, just so they can be well adjusted whenever they show up and do get ready to go to work.
Right. What are some of like the big historic outfits out in that part of the world where you're at?
Well, we've got a lot of family ranches. I don't know if there's anything super like crazy historic, like specifically where we're at, but I know all these homestead ranches that are around there have been there since the mid to late 1800s, still same family operated. So I know, like, the house on the place where I'm at on my stepmother's ranch, that was the main part of the house was built in 1892, somewhere right around there. But that country was settled by like her great-great-grandfather and his brother, like back somewhere way back in the 1800s. But all those families, there's like 7, 8, 10 of those families that own the primary majority of that country, and it's been in their family since then. So,
And it's always been cattle country. There's not much else you could do out there.
Yeah, cattle's king, pretty much.
But did they ever have sheep out in that part
Oh
of the
yeah,
world?
man, it's been big sheep country too.
And goats? The goats work out there too?
Yeah, goats will work out there. They'll go eat up all the shit that the cows won't.
Right. How do you think that, or have you seen a kind of a change in your songwriting going from being a touring musician back home and being on the ranch all the time? Have you seen a big shift in your songwriting?
Yeah, not really so much like in the way that I write or the way that I approach songwriting, but I definitely notice a huge difference in my subject matter, because I think you're just a product of your environment, like where you spend most of your time. Like you can't help to have some of that rub off on you. And for me, like where I'm at in West Texas, you might hear a lot of songs about weather and how dry and shit it is, especially on that last record, because when I wrote that record, we were right in the middle of a big drought. And so I think that influenced a lot right there for me, just being out in that part of the country.
Right.
And having kids like that changes your outlook on things too.
Sure.
You're not really worried, you're not 18 and 20, 22 anymore, worried about broken hearts and all that crap,
What does your writing process look like? Because you're very busy. You're running a ranch, you're raising a family, and there's guys that are not doing any of that are complaining about not finding time to write. So for you finding time to write, how do you go about that?
Oh man, well, I'm really the world's worst when it comes to actually sitting down and maybe finishing a song, but my best writing is usually about 5 to 5:30 in the morning if I'm going to actually sit down and work on something. But really for me, I may not pick up a pen for 4 to 6 months, but in that whole time that I'm not writing, I'm still out there gathering ideas every day, depending on whether I'm working on fence or we're gathering bulls or running a piece of equipment or we're plumbing or whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm kind of always thinking. My mind's always kind of going. And if I get a great line, I'll just write it down. Or if I got a minute, I'll do a quick audio, take a quick clip of whatever I had going on in my head at the time. And then whenever I do get a chance, I'll just kind of sit down with those thoughts and kind of collectively pull everything together and just kind of sift through. But for me, it's never really started with the music first. It's just kind of always been the lyric.
Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about it here in a minute, but you're doing quite a bit of co-writing now. But throughout your kind of writing career, have you mostly written by yourself or have you always written with other people?
Man, it's primarily just been by myself, mostly because I had just never figured out the art of the co-write. I didn't know how to function in a room, writing with other guys. I could always figure things out in my own head, better than I could. I was always a little more self-conscious, maybe about my ideas. And so I was a little bit more, I was a little nervous about throwing ideas out with other songwriters or, I guess I just wasn't sure if those lyrics would hold up, hanging out with other writers that maybe I thought were better than me or some stuff like that. But so I don't know, for the primarily the majority of the Dolly Shine stuff, I wrote a lot by myself. I would co-write with guys a little bit, like Clayton Landy from a band called Six Market Boulevard, a mutual friend of all of ours, William Clark Green. We co-wrote a little bit together, but primarily it was me back then. And then I really just kind of dipped my toe into the co-writing in probably the last 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. And I really haven't immersed myself in it very much. Written a few things here and there. I co-wrote one with Ross over here through text message that made it onto a record that I was pretty proud of. And then I guess more recently I've really started diving into the co-writing more with Ross and Hayden over here. And man, that's been fun. Mm-hmm. It's been a lot of fun. I think I'm having more fun doing these co-writes with my two buddies than I have on any project in a long time.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel do you think there's an advantage to you guys are all together right now and writing together? Do you think the writing is easier in person rather than kind of sending ideas back and forth and in pieces and stuff? Or do you prefer it that way kind of from a distance?
I always I'm pretty old school in the fact that I would rather be sitting down face to face with whoever I'm going to write with. So I find it easier, but really and truthfully, like, we're all pals. We're very like-minded in the way that we think, the way that we approach things. We might have a slightly different approach and bring some great ideas to the table. So I don't think it really matters in this scenario specifically because we just all known each other a long time. And it's very easy. It's very, it's comfortable.
Right.
You know?
Well, we should talk about the project that you guys are working on together. Tell us, I'll just let you tell us what you guys are working on.
Yeah. So I'm not going to tell you a whole lot because it's not quite there yet. But myself and Ross Cooper and Hayden Redwine, we've all been palling around and bumming around the same circles for the last several years. And I've been a fan of these two guys' songwriting for a long time. And I don't know, we just kind of started kicking around the idea. I think Hayden brought it up first that we ought to start this little trio deal, kind of like the Flatlanders, like Joe Ely, you know, some stuff like that, but make it cowboy.
Right.
And it was just something that we thought we might want to just do just to have some fun, really. And it's brought out a whole new element. I know for sure for my songwriting, I've always been a little bit prone to leaning towards the sad bastard kind of songs. And this has really brought out like a little bit more of a fun, cowboy kind of fun, cool, you know, punchy element to things.
Right.
But we're looking at getting some shows on the books. I think we're going to premiere this project at the Dusty Vaquero Days, which I'm very excited about. We're currently putting songs together right now. We just wrote one this morning that we're pretty excited about.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's sweet. And Ross is learning to play stand-up bass.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
He is. He's got some new calluses built up. He said in places that he'd never had calluses before.
Well, that's sweet. What's I guess we'll change it up a little bit here. What's the nicest guitar that you've ever played?
The nicest I've ever played? I don't know. Dave Stamey's guitar. Yeah, I guess Dave Stamey let us pick up his guitar one night. We played a show with him and it was phenomenal. I couldn't afford it. It was way out of my price range. So I just picked it up and I strummed a G chord and I was like, man, this is beautiful. And then I handed it back.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember Hayden telling me that story that he picked that guitar up and it was unreal. And I told Dave that. I said, you know, I was talking to some friends and they said your Santa Cruz is the best guitar they've ever played. Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
And he said, oh, I just leave that one at home. Like he doesn't even use that guitar hardly. Like he has a Martin that he takes on the road.
His backup is the nicest guitar we've ever picked up.
Yeah. That's pretty neat. Let's see. Well, so you don't have any dates or anything beyond that where you guys are, do you know if you're going to record some stuff together? Is this going to be like a live?
No, this is going to be a real deal. Like we're going to pursue this project. Granted, you know, it's a side project for all of us. Hopefully it'll become a primary one of these days. Right now we're just having a lot of fun. We're writing some good songs. The plan is to debut it at Dusty Vaquero. We're going to hopefully go into the studio before then. I can't put a date on it because I don't know exactly when, but we're trying to put together enough material to make a record, and then we want to do some shows on this thing and kind of tour around on it. So, because what better way to get out and travel around and play some music than to do it with some pals? Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Take your buddies with you. What did you think of Dusty Vaquero Days last year? You got to play last year. Well, all three of you guys got to play last year.
That was my favorite festival that I got to play all year. It's something that I was looking forward to playing again. You know, from the moment we left, I was like, holy shit, man, I want to go back. Yeah. So I think it was great. It looks like it's going to be even better this year. If you don't invite me back next year, I'm going to kick your ass.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess you probably went to bed. These guys gave me a pretty good shapping. Were you there for that?
No, I missed the shapping. I don't know if that happened the night before.
It was Saturday night. Yeah.
Okay, so it might have been late. I had all my kiddos with me, so we played and hung out for a bit, and then we had to go take them to bed. But I'm kind of sad I missed that.
Yeah, that was.
We were jumping.
Yeah, I guess that doesn't really translate up north, right? That shapping's really not a thing.
A lot of people hadn't seen that before, and so
Chinks up there.
It could be. I don't know. It's just. I mean,
you gotta get a short guy.
Some of the folks knew, but a lot of the people that were standing around didn't. And so I walked out of Brennan's bus and I had my hands in my pockets of my jacket because it was kind of chilly. And Ross got me immediately, and I couldn't get my hands out of my pockets at that point. And
man, Shappin
was Shappin. He's the biggest guy.
He's the biggest guy, and the two smallest guys are out there. Kicking it.
So that's where you screwed up. You needed the big guy like Brennan mugging the guy and then holding him down.
Came and sat down on
that was the end of that.
Yeah, Shappin, I don't know. It's a big deal in our part of the world. Whether it's a birthday or you're getting married or whatever, you're going to get a Shappin.
Yeah. Yeah, Hayden had one of Kenny Fiddler's band members had no idea what was happening. He thought I was just getting
put him
jumped.
in full Nelson.
He piled on Hayden's back.
He goes, "I'll save you, Jake."
Yeah. He jumped in and tried to help, I guess, but it didn't go very far.
His intentions were good.
They were in the right spot.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So Dusty Vaquero Days, there's still tickets available.
Yep. Go out and buy them if you haven't bought some yet.
Are you working on any solo stuff at all, or are you mostly focusing on this right now?
So I'm working on a little bit of solo stuff as well right now. We're kind of dinking around with a little bit of Dolly Shine stuff too. So I've got my irons in a couple of different fires at the moment. I'd say my primary focus right now is on this trio stuff just because it's so much fun. And then I've got my solo stuff and then the Dolly Shine stuff kind of on the back burner. I've got a few songs ready for both. It's just kind of finding time to get to the studio really for all of it at the moment. Yeah.
And we should talk about too, some of the guys that were in Dolly Shine with you, they went on to play for some pretty big bands and kind of just when it dispersed a little bit, where did some of those guys go?
So jokingly, I've always kind of referred to Dolly Shine as like the Durham Bulls of Texas music, like that minor league step up program to go to the next level. Man, we've had guys go and play. I know like Pedal Steel went to Kyle Park and then he went to Jason Boland for a little while. And then right now he's been playing a little bit in some bigger, large Nashville projects, and then has become a studio musician since then. And then another guy that played pedal steel and guitar, he went to Josh Weathers, and then fiddle player went to Flatland Cavalry, and then guitar player went to Co Wetzel, and then on to Geo in the Guns, and then bass player was with American Aquarium for a good little while. Had another bass player that toured with us for a couple of years that went with another project after we finished, and then now he's with the Drop Tines, and those guys are killing it. And, just kind of everywhere. Yeah. Like I said, the Durham Bulls, man.
That's when I started hearing about like, oh, that guy used to play with Dolly Shine and that guy used to play with Dolly Shine. It was like a feeder to all these other big, like,
we were the farm team, man.
That's crazy.
I mean, I'm the last person you should ask to name a band. I named a band Dolly Shine. Like, who the hell does that? So
where did that come from?
Oh man.
Dale.
Yeah. So it's essentially the Americanized spelling and version of Dolly Shine, like Spanish version, like get after it, give it the cash. You hear them old men tell them young boys like Dolly Shine, like get your ass to work. That's kind of what it means. My buddy had got a horse out of a rescue program to come from like Mexico or somewhere down there. And he turned into a pretty badass calf horse later on. And he named that horse Dolly Shine. Oh. And I'll say one night in college, like probably a few too many adult beverages in, he said, man, you guys ought to name the band Dolly Shine. I said, screw that. I don't even know what that is or like how to market that. Like it's the weirdest shit I've ever heard in my life, but okay. What do you got? And he said, tell you what, you guys name the band Dolly Shine, and on the Night Owl's first CD release party, I'll get it tattooed on my ass. So I was like, all right, shit, you're on. So we shook on it, and a year later, we put out that first record, and there was a tattoo parlor right above that bar that we played at. And branded for life, man.
That's sweet.
Yeah, truthfully, honestly, I never thought that band would go anywhere. And so I was like, fuck it. I'll name the band Dolly Shine. It's not going to happen.
That's great. I never heard that story before.
Yeah, that's kind of how it happened.
What was the wildest show that you guys ever played as Dolly Shine?
There are a few of them. I think the first time we played the Cowboy, that was a pretty wild time. I'll say that.
Was that the one where Nate was hanging from the rafters? Is that where that came from?
Yeah, and then the marching band came in, and it wasn't the same night that Dinwiddie punched that vagrant fiddle player out, but it was right along the same lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the kegs and eggs parties over there. That's a whole other country.
Yeah.
Laramie, Wyoming itself. It doesn't even belong in the United States just because it's still Wild West.
Yeah.
No, that one, I would have to say we played Rednecks with Paychecks, this festival in Nocona, Texas, or just outside of St. Joe, I guess, one time. And it was like the redneck apocalypse, man. It was like, 400 or 500 acres, whatever it is. And like, you had to sign a waiver whenever you came in, like even playing this festival. So we get there, we sign this waiver, we do this stuff, and it's like everything from like go-karts to monster trucks out there. There's guys jumping out in mud pits, like just burying their trucks and blowing up, motors on brand new, like $70,000 pickups and stuff like that. We saw a guy riding on the back of an old pickup, and then somebody bumped into the back of them and like snapped his foot off, like broke it, like left the ankle just like dangling.
Oh man.
And then the owner of this whole deal, he was putting it on. He's like, hey man, if you guys want to go kind of drink some beer after the show's over and kind of want to see the festival from like a safe place, I have this old Army deuce-and-a-half truck. We'll put a keg on the back and we'll just ride around and just kind of show you guys the grounds. It's like, cool. So, and mind you, the whole backstage area is like high fence, like, and it's got like the barbed wire angled up, like the shit you see like in prisons.
Yeah.
And I'm probably painting this to be a lot worse than it was, but I know I was pretty nervous. So anyways, we get on this truck, and this is us and a couple other bands, and we throw this keg on there, and we get maybe like 100, 200 yards outside of like the backstage area. And we picked up this older gentleman that the driver knew at his campsite. And then some rando jumped on there that nobody knew who he was, and he went to go try to grab this old man's beer cooler and stick it on, and the old man like didn't really want to have his beer cooler put on the truck. He's like, no, let's put it on here, blah, blah, blah. So long story short, they get the cooler on, the old man gets on, he's not real happy about his cooler being there. And this guy that we don't know is just like randomly just talking shit to everybody. He's like, man, I got to take a leak. And so we're like, hey, there's women on here, like you can't do that. So we're like, turn around over there. So he turns around and he's like trying to take a leak off the side of this truck, and driver hits a bump. And this guy loses his balance, and he reaches over and he grabs a stack to catch his balance.
No.
And he flips around and falls over backwards over these buckboards of this thing and gets his legs ran over. Like, dude got his legs broke.
Because these trucks, I think I've seen videos of this.
Yeah.
These are like trucks with tractor tires and 1,000 horsepower, and they're like full-blown monster trucks that you're riding around on.
This is it's like old military issue vehicles.
That's insane. When you said that, I started thinking of these videos I've seen of that. Like, that's insane.
Yeah. Was this like pre-side-by-sides, you think?
No, they were in existence for sure.
That's wild. Rednecks with Paychecks.
But it's the wildest shit. It is fun. Like, I'm probably painting a really bad picture, but it's the Wild West there for damn sure.
There's also like up around this part of the world, we don't have that culture. Like, we don't have like a mud. Like, like if you get rain and you got a 4-wheeler, you'll go mud. But there's not like that like jacked up truck,
hillbillies and huge trucks. Yeah.
So when you get farther south and farther east, it changed. That's when Texas starts feeling like a separate state.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And the same for them coming west. When they get
That
about
is wild.
Fort Worth, Weatherford, or Abilene, they're like, what the fuck? Yeah.
Abilene is
That's where it
cut
could.
off right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I wonder how you even insure an event like that. Like,
I don't know.
Probably no insurance.
That's what the waivers are for, yeah.
I mean, you saw 3 broken legs in the short time that you were there.
We were there for 12 hours.
That's insane.
I told myself, there ain't no way in hell I'm going back. We went and played it the next year.
Also, when you were in Laramie, like that show, I should say that time in Laramie, the Cowboy had, Cody Johnson was there, Turnpike was there, Cody Jinks, Shane Smith. I mean, they had some really like killer bands that would come up to Wyoming and play there. And that, I feel like that was like the golden era of the Cowboy, because it fell off after that and they weren't getting bands like that anymore. I mean, that place would be packed, and it was like almost every weekend. Red Shahan would come up there and play pretty regular, and then it stopped, and now there's new owners and they're trying to kind of revitalize that. Yeah, and because it just, I don't know what happened. It felt like they kind of gave up a little bit. But that time, I was in college, and I was very fortunate to be there at that time because it was really good music at the Cowboy. Yeah,
man, we were fortunate to kind of be coming up during that time when the Cowboy was kind of wild and thriving. So, man, we would make that an anchor date. Like, we made it a point to go play the Cowboy just because it was so much fun. So, like, we'd do that 2, 3, 4 times a year, as often as we could.
Right.
And we would literally plan that as an anchor date, and then we would just route around it just so that we could play the Cowboy a couple times a year. Mm-hmm. But that shit was wild.
Yeah, I remember Nate hanging from the rafters, and then, well, we should talk about Nate a little bit, because he was hanging from the rafters, and that there was a picture that got taken that kind of went viral because he was hanging out of the rafters of the place. And fast forward, however, 6, 7 years, whatever it was, and Nate gets cancer. Mm-hmm. And he's now had it 4 times and beat it 4 times. But the very first time they got it, there was a benefit show. And Nate, I can't remember how this all played out, but Nate called me the day of, or maybe the day before, and he said, I had a photographer lined up. They backed out. Can you come do this? And I had just bought that camera right there, which is the first camera that I ever had that shot video. And the first music-related anything that I ever did was that L-Bar 7 benefit show. And that had become Nate's like staple, hanging from the rafters. And at that show, there must have been 40 people up in the rafters of that place hanging down. I guess he got okay from the owners to do that, but they're not meant to be sat in. So there was, there's bolts sticking out of them and stuff. And there was a couple people that after they tried to get down, their pants hung on a bolt. And so there's people walking around with no pockets, their asses hanging out, because as soon as they got in those rafters, they got stuck.
I want to say that the time that Nate climbed up in the rafters when we played might have been the first time that he did that. Shit, it might not have been. I don't know. I know that I ended up in there with him at some point during the show, and Ray Tom Myers did as well.
Yeah, Ray Tom.
So, I mean, they're definitely not designed for even one person to really be up there.
No, that's wild.
I know it was pretty frowned upon, but it was so out of control in there that night that I think it was just going to happen either way. Like, it was just begging for it.
That picture, I don't know who took it, but that picture was, that place was packed and the lights were super bright, and you just see one guy hanging out of the rafters upside down.
That would be Nate.
Cool. Yeah. That was also when I met, you had Caleb Alamand running merch for you.
Yeah.
And Caleb, or maybe opening too. I think he might have,
probably so. I think him and then Tris and Jordan probably did a 3-man song swap to open those shows.
Probably so. Yeah.
That would be when Caleb was running merch. He was also drinking all of the band's bar tab and having to drive the van and sell merch,
Right.
He got an alter ego like nickname that weekend. I forget what it was, but like we figured out his Facebook like login info, and then we changed his name on there and we locked him out of it, and we would just post like shit from like that weekend about him for I don't know, a good 6 months. So he didn't live it down for a long time. But yeah.
Well, and he's like, now that I think about this, he started out selling merch for you. He went on and did that for Moon Pies, and he worked with. He was also kind of climbing the ladder, starting.
Oh yeah,
there.
No, he damn sure built a name for himself on the scene. He's worked with quite a few good guys.
That's crazy.
Come a long way from hanging in the rafters at the Cowboy.
Do you have a good horse wreck story?
I don't know. I guess probably more so with my kids in the last couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
I got an old mare. We call her Hell Bitch. Of course, everybody's got one of those, I'm sure, hanging around. But she's all gas and no brakes, and she's great whenever you're chasing something and you got to be real fast, but you need to be in real big open country for to let her out like that. So we had a calf get loose kind of in a water lot one time, and it was probably like, I don't know, it was like a 100-acre trap, I guess. And I was hauling ass, chasing after this calf, thinking I'm going to get it roped before we get to the end. Well, we get to the end of this thing, and calf ducks right, and I go to start going right. She didn't go right. She went straight, and we just pile up into the fence, and we got wrapped up in this shit. And she went down, and I went down. Yeah, right on top of me. We got a pretty good roll out of the whole deal. And we're lucky we walked away from that one. But, yeah, I guess that's probably the worst one.
Both you and the horse were all right.
Yeah, we somewhat unscathed.
Dang. What about bull riding? Do you have any bad wrecks bull riding?
Oh, yeah, I think if you ride bulls long enough, it's not a matter of if, it's usually just always a matter of when. I definitely have cracked my wrist, 2 or 3 different times. I broke my left ankle, all my ribs on my right side. Got a few ugly, nasty scars from it, getting hung up doing stupid shit like that. But, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I got a couple questions that I close it out with, unless there's anything else that you wanted to talk about before we.
Oh, man, you go for it.
All right. Well, think of your favorite book or movie or TV show.
Okay.
What character do you think best resembles you?
I don't know. I'm probably Homer Simpson. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't take myself too seriously about anything anymore. At this point in my life, I'm just kind of like that grumpy ass old man, that hangs out.
That's the best answer I've ever.
Clark Griswold. That's what Hayden tells me. I'm the last Clark Griswold.
That's a good one. Okay. Well, the last question I got is, it's your last day. You're sitting in a cold cell, and they're going to hang you come dark. Guy comes by, and you get to pick your last meal, and you get to listen to or play one song. What's the meal, and what's the song?
I'm eating a steak, and I'm going to listen to The Cape by Guy Clark.
Oh, that's a good one.
Hands down.
Heck yeah. Well, where can people find what you're working on now, find your older music that you've got out? Where do they look you up to find you?
Well, my social media presence isn't that great, so probably smoke signals might be the best way to track me down. No, you can find it on all the stuff I've got out, iTunes, Spotify, all that stuff. I've got a website that somewhat stays active, so ZackMcGinnmusic.com. You can find me there. Instagram, I guess, is probably where I'm the actual most active on my social media stuff. But yeah, you can find all my music on any streaming platform.
Yep, and you've got Zack McGinn as your solo stuff, and then you've also got Dolly Shine.
Yeah,
both places.
Check on Dolly Shine Music for any social media stuff. Whatever happenings we've got going on there too.
Right. Sweet. Well, thank you for taking the time to do this podcast.
It's good hanging, man. Good to visit with you.
You bet. Well, we'll talk to you on the next one.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for listening in. Don't forget to head over to dustyvaquerodays.com. You can find festival tickets there. In our store, we have all kinds of different merch. Big thank you to Brendan Scott Green for making the original music for this podcast. Please give us a review. We'd love to hear your feedback, and tell your friends. We'll see you next week.